Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. British Hodl has joined us live today. Morgan Stanley is about to drive massive Bitcoin adoption through 15,000 wealth advisors. Today, we're going to dive into the massive recovery of the Nikkei 225, Trump on Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, the Wall Street ETFs, the power law, does the BOFA bull market multiples still count? And is Morgan Stanley set to unleash a fresh load of liquidity? British Hodl, welcome back to the show, mate. How are you? And what are your thoughts about Morgan Stanley? Is it bullish? Is it bearish? What do you see eventuating from this?
Firstly, thanks, brother, for having me. I know we've been trying to get this done for a while. I've been on holiday, and apologies for that. So Morgan Stanley is extremely bullish. I think that there's going to be, so let me just cover really quickly what this actually means, right? We have got 15,000 sales, commission-driven salespeople, right, who have been instructed and tasked with the objective of selling Bitcoin into portfolios of Morgan Stanley's private wealth management clients. These guys make money on every amount of Bitcoin that they sell year on year. And so their objective is basically to increase their commissions. And I think that this is the first domino. So I think we're going to see 50,000 salespeople in America, around the world, by the end of this year being greenlit to sell Bitcoin products to their clients. And of course, which ETFs are they going to sell? It's going to be IBIT and FBTC because the lobby is too strong. So this is extremely bullish news. They start selling tomorrow, the 7th of August, and we'll see what type of impact that makes on price. I'm not expecting an immediate impact, but it should be quite remarkable over the next 6 months.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think it'd take about 6 months for it to be able to kick in?
Yeah, it always does, right? Everything takes time. Everything takes, people got to research, do their studies. People got to, figure out how they're going to sell it, all this other stuff. So all of that's going to take time, but we're certainly on a good path here for Bitcoin.
Yep. And then I guess Morgan Stanley, they'll be selling the FBTC and IBIT like you were saying. With the other 35,000 you expect to come into the space, how's that going to drive Bitcoin adoption long term? Are they going to advise people just to buy the ETF and that's where it stays? Or some of those people are going to be like, hey, buy the ETF first off and then go into self-custody?
Yeah, there's going to be no promotion of self-custody at this moment in time. It's going to be the ETF, the ETF, the ETF, and that's what their clients want. Until a time comes where BlackRock, for example, is self-custodying Bitcoin for people, it's never going to be. And again, is that really self-custody, right? So we're not talking about self-custody here. Bitcoiners that have that mindset where the only way forward is self-custody have to pull their heads out of their asses right now. Like, this train is leaving the station. It's already left the station. BlackRock's now basically increasing the speed and velocity at which this train is going. And ETF is the simplest solution for people to get Bitcoin inside their portfolios, and it's the only way that these guys make money.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So last couple of days, Japan, it looks like as the end of the financial world. It sort of felt eerily similar to March 2020 with COVID, and then it's back even higher than where it was a couple of days ago. What do you think about that? First off, the dump and then the pump. Was it healthy? Is it natural? Or have we got further pain to go?
I would say that it's completely healthy. One of the things that I said in 2020, before everyone knew me as British Hodl, just to the small group that I was talking to and responsible for at that time, is that we're entering a time period where the speed at which things come, the volatility at which things come is going to get more and more because there's more money being printed and less assets to put them in. Therefore, the volatility is going to go up. And that's what we've seen. We've seen a completely reasonable 15% drop in the market. And this is completely healthy, right? We were steaming forward at a 20%, 25% market return on the NASDAQ for the year after a year of a 20% return. So this is completely healthy for the market to do so. I don't think there's going to be any Fed intervention. I think the Japan trade is an excuse to start stimulating, and I think that's what you're going to see over the next, few days and weeks. You're going to start seeing stimulus come in everywhere.
Yep. I did see on X there that the Fed was starting to do a buyback. Believe about.
Someone put that out there, but that's a program that's been going since January of this year, so it's not anything new. That's not a newsworthy story at this point.
Yeah, I thought as much. I thought it had been going on for quite a while. So people on X are now calling that the money printing's coming, 46 billion worth of outstanding government securities by the end of October. So what is actual money printing? How are we going to see that enter the space? The Fed just going to hit the button and unleash it, or how are they going to go about injecting liquidity into the market?
There's going to be interesting ways that's going to happen, because obviously they're not just going to print money and send it to people, right? That's the rawest form of money printing. Let's just print as much money as possible, send people checks. They're going to do all kinds of things. They're going to buy bad debt. They're going to buy bad products. They're going to buy, bonds. There's just an unlimited ways that the Fed can inject liquidity. And the program that you're talking about is actually a treasury program. So we haven't seen the Fed start opening up easy money yet, but it will come. This has to come, because this is the natural process for anything involving the Federal Reserve, anything involving the fiat money system. You have to print money. You have to generate liquidity, because that's the only way that the system stays alive at this point. So it is coming. Massive amounts are coming. The more volatility, the better, because the more volatility there is, the worse everything looks, and therefore the Fed has to print more money in order to stabilize what's going on. So, yeah, we're going to see money printing, loose money policies from every single direction. Interest rate drops, backing out, buying bad debt, everything. Everything's on the table at this point.
When they, so like in September, they're set to cut the interest rates. It looks like maybe 50 basis points. When they do that, the interest rate is still pretty high. Do they need to drop the interest rate all the way to zero before they fire up the money printer? Do you get one before the other, or we get them both at the same time?
No, I think there's going to be a combination. The most dangerous part of a loosening cycle, which is what we're about to step into, is the spread of time between the interest rates coming down and liquidity being injected, right? That is the most dangerous time. And that's generally when a yield curve, straightens out again. And that's happened. And so now we've seen a stock market crash, which we didn't need to wait 3 to 6 months for. We've seen that happen right now. So I think the Fed comes in September, lowers it by 50 basis points, and continues to lower it until it hits somewhere around 2.5 to 3%, which is the 40-year trend line on the 2-year interest rate and on the Fed funds rate. So we've been overextended to the upside for a very, very long time on that 40-year trend, and that's got to balance out. And I think it starts by getting to 2.5 to 3% first.
Yep. When they do cut the interest rates, do you expect to see a drop in the market's Bitcoin price first?
I think we've seen that, right? We've seen this drop.
That's now.
That's happening right now, right? The yield curve straightened out, and we saw this drop. Now, will it continue until September 16th? It could actually happen, right? We could just trend sideways from here and have shocks up and down. Certainly, maybe not with Bitcoin, with the amount of buying volume that's happening through the ETFs right now. But we'll see. The market could certainly travel sideways until then, for sure. Yep.
It jumped the gun on me, but I'd like to play this video. I saw that you shared it this morning, the legendary Nassim Taleb. It's 2 minutes and 9 seconds. It's a little bit funny, but I'd like to get your thoughts on it.
I want to talk about Bitcoin. That's where I'm going to go.
One thing.
Don't look at me. Don't point at me.
Listen, it's a speculative thing.
Yeah.
And one point is Bitcoin proved once again that it's not a hedge against your assets melting.
Or against money printing, or it's just a speculative asset. It's like an asset.
It's a speculative asset that seems to, it's just like, behave, like high-priced real estate in Manhattan,
right?
Or to track the stock market,
right? That may be true, but you're losing your ass from when you told me it was useless at 30,000.
I'm saying it's useless doesn't mean you know, there's a lot of things I didn't invest in.
All right.
A lot of things I didn't invest in that went up.
I want you to short it.
Went down.
Instead of just talking, I want you to short it or buy it. Do one or the other.
That's exactly the kind of false dichotomy that you're causing. I'm telling you, it's an asset that's crazy. Okay, of course, we got enough crazy.
All right.
To drive it up.
Do you think what do you think is going to happen to it long term, though?
I have no idea. First of all, I have no idea. It's a speculative asset. What I'm saying, it's not useful in the economic system to have assets that go from $10 to $60,000. Okay, when we're looking for price stability,
like Netscape, that goes from 800 to 180.
But there's an underlying company that actually produces something that makes a product.
But on any given day, whatever it's worth is totally ephemeral. You have no idea.
Let me tell you the problem with Bitcoin people. They always
NVIDIA went from $6 to $400.
And it's revolutionizing the world.
Who knows whether Bitcoin's doing that or not? There's people that think Bitcoin is doing it. But it's not. People that think it is.
How so? It's become a speculative asset. That's what it is. That's the product. The product is being a speculative asset.
It has a functional use in terms of what constitutes a like actual money. It has a
that's exactly
like
what you're getting wrong. It's proving that it can be anything, but it's not a currency and it's not a hedge. All right. So
not a currency, not a hedge. What are your thoughts on that one, British?
Yeah, look, Nassim Taleb has a great book, Anti-Fragile, and I think it's a great masterpiece for selling the idea of having some Bitcoin allocation in your portfolio. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to understand what Bitcoin is and how it brings any value. One of the things that I love about Joe Kernan, who is becoming my favorite like media Bitcoiner, so to say, is that he said to him, short the position then. And that's been my position for a while, Sean, like where I grew up and when I started in business and things like that, I would have older men around me telling me very, very clearly, you got to shut the fuck up unless you're willing to put up the money where your mouth is for your opinions. You got to earn your opinions, right? Everyone just has an opinion on Bitcoin. I've said this to people many times, right? People get on stage, people get on YouTube, on Twitter, all this other shit, and they always talk about, oh, I'm in cash right now because my position is cash. Cash is not a position. Cash is a bitch position. And it doesn't mean anything, right? Cash doesn't mean anything. Cash means what you're projecting with cash is I don't know what's going on. Now, I have cash, right? I have a certain amount of cash to take care of the next, say, 2 years. Because I don't know what's happening in the next 2 years. Therefore, I have this amount of cash to make sure that I can get through the next 2 years. That's a cash position. Every one of these morons that has an opinion about Bitcoin on the negative side but does not short it is an absolute moron, in my opinion. Their opinions don't matter. They don't count. Peter Schiff and Nassim Taleb need to get together and publicly demonstrate a short position in Bitcoin. Put your money where your mouth is. Otherwise, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, talking about Peter Schiff, he's been, excuse my French, but he's been so noisy lately, doing the same thing. He's been wrong. What I think Max Kaiser wanted to give him Bitcoin at like $18, $11, something like that. So he's consistently been wrong. And when we have these big dips, I can understand that people think, oh, maybe he was right, and they get shaken out. But what are your thoughts on Peter Schiff? Is it just engagement farming, or is it seems like a little bit more sinister to me. He knows about it. He knows what it is. He's a hard money guy. It's just a little bit off from his thesis or his business model. That's my thoughts, but what are yours?
Yeah, I mean, I would hate to think that it is sinister, although I wouldn't put it past anyone. I trust everyone. I just don't trust the devil inside of them, as the saying from Wall Street. I like that. But, at the end of the day, Peter Schiff's opinions don't matter. His thoughts don't matter. His own fund has underperformed the S&P 500 since inception. Gold has underperformed. It's an impotent asset at this point. Bitcoin is taking over. The money managers and the capital asset. Peter Schiff is like listening to Peter Schiff is like sitting in front of the biggest wave you've ever seen coming at you. Think you're going to survive because the capital allocators of the world have dictated that Bitcoin is gold 2.0. They've said it, and the moment they said it, there was 17 days worth of consecutive outflows from the GLD ETF. And so, look. These people can say whatever they want to say. They can engagement farm whatever they want to farm. At the end of the day, the universe, God, whatever you believe, it will rain down terror on their asses at some point if they have a sinister intention. If they don't have a sinister intention, they'll just be fucked, right? Well, it's going to be one or the other.
Yeah, I think because he heard about it so long ago, that's already the position. Maybe just a bit of man in regards to it. So many people have switched gears. We've talked about it before with Larry Fink. Bitcoin's a flight to quality. Morgan Stanley's unleashing 15,000 people. That's going to explode out to 50,000 people in the financial markets. But what are your thoughts on Trump? I saw that you. I'll bring it up here if I can. Not this one. Donald Trump Jr., big things coming the future. Obviously, Trump, the whole Trump family have gotten behind Bitcoin. Now they're starting to talk about crypto DeFi. But before we get into like the crypto DeFi side of things, what are your thoughts just about Trump's stance on Bitcoin? What David Bailey's been doing through Bitcoin Magazine, having him speak at Bitcoin 24?
Yeah, I think what David Bailey and the team have been doing is actually more important than President Trump, former President Trump's stance on Bitcoin, because it's laying the groundwork for the orange pilling for every future president that the US is going to get, and that's more important than one particular president. I would rather have both sides support Bitcoin. I really want Kamala Harris or whoever is the final Democrat ticket to be very, very pro-Bitcoin, because ultimately that's how you control these people. At the end of the day, they are politicians. As much as you love President Trump or Kamala Harris or Keir Starmer in the UK or Rishi Sunak, they're all politicians, right? And the best way to control them is to get them to tap dance for you. And the way that they tap dance for us is by being pro-Bitcoin. And we have to get that happening. We need both sides. We need both sides of the aisle. We need everyone involved that's pro-Bitcoin. At the end of the day, money is going to be printed, right? Whether money is printed because you want to change the weather by printing an X amount of money, or whether it's going to be printed because you want to print this money to offer tax cuts, it's getting printed. And the key thing here is for Bitcoiners is that we need to realize we need politicians on both sides of the aisle interested in this and simping for Bitcoin. That's what I want. I want politicians simping for Bitcoin. I want them tap dancing. I want them with their hats out. I want them begging for Bitcoin money. And they did a remarkable job, right? I think they're raising the order of $25 million on a week at the Bitcoin conference, which is unbelievable, right? So the Bitcoin lobby gets stronger and stronger. And that's what we need. We need every politician, because then what happens is when President Trump promises you something, you call the other one up. You say, this is what Trump is promising. And then say, no, I'll double up on that. And then you call Trump back and say, no, but they just offered this. And that's how you play these people off against each other. At the end of the day, I don't trust any politicians. I am now a single issue voter in the country that I vote in, which is the United Kingdom. And any party that does not support Bitcoin is never getting my vote ever again, because ultimately it's the money that solves everything else. Every societal issue that we have is downstream of the money. And until you fix the money, none of those things are going away. So therefore, I'm a single issue voter. Any party in the UK that wants my vote has to be simping for Bitcoin. If they're not getting my vote.
That's interesting. As a thought experiment, say Camila Harris becomes the president and has this still negative stance against Bitcoin. Is that going to hold Bitcoin adoption back for the next couple of years? Like, we haven't had the politicians up until now, so it hasn't really been an issue. But if she comes out, is that just going to sort of be the end of it, and we need to wait another 4 years hoping for another president to come in that is pro-Bitcoin?
Yeah, actually, yes, I think that will happen, right? Because it won't be the fact that one of the great things that comes with President Trump is that he's a great marketer, right? And if he's decided that Bitcoin is going to be one of the things that he is marketing, well, we're going to have great press conferences talking about the Bitcoin price every 2 weeks, right? So that side of it is definitely going to bring it into the consciousness of the world, so to say. However, my president, his name is Larry Fink, and he's not going anywhere no matter who you vote for. And so what I'm confident about is that BlackRock, the world's best, biggest, baddest asset manager in the world, has decided that Bitcoin is a real thing. Bitcoin must be adopted, and Bitcoin is the path for growth for what's going on here. And no matter who the president is, they will be pro-Bitcoin. I guarantee you that this is how lobbying works. Whoever the president is, they will be pro-Bitcoin, because the lobby will make sure of that. And that's what you want. So I'll just salute my president, Larry Fink, and we'll go from there. Of course, I'm being a little bit facetious, but there is a lot of truth behind how the American political lobby works and how the worldwide political lobby works. Let me ask you a question, Sean.
Okay.
We went in 1 year, we went from, I don't like Bitcoin, the US dollar I like better, to all of these Republican senators, House members, and the president himself talking about the fact that he is and they are pro-Bitcoin. Do you think these morons are intelligent enough to sit there after all the other bullshit they've done? Do you think they're suddenly intelligent enough and at a light bulb moment and woke up and thought, you know what? I'm going to read the Bitcoin Standard and my life has completely changed after the amount of money these morons have taken from all their donors? I don't think that happened.
No.
Right? And I'm a big Trump fan, but I do not think that happened. I think they were walked. Someone called them and said, hey, you're now pro-Bitcoin. Here's the talking points. And if they said no, the campaign donation stopped. That's how the real world works.
Yeah. The way that I see it sitting here in Australia, literally the other side of the world, is Vivek Ramaswamy was very early on pro-Bitcoin. And then I think he got into Trump's ear and probably just said, I 100% believe you're right. None of them read any of the books. Maybe Vivek did. RFK certainly has. But then they've gone on and been like, well, maybe Ramaswamy's gotten in his ear and said, this is going to bring in a huge amount of voter base. You need to turn pro-bullish. And I think that's as hard as it was. I don't think there's anything else apart from money and a new voter base to be able to get behind Trump.
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was Vivek. I'm not that naive to think it was Vivek.
Yeah, interesting. For everyone tuning in live, if you can smash the like button and share the video, it'd be greatly appreciated. British Hodl, the Bank of America, the bull market multiple, and I'd like to dive into that. Do you reckon it's useful? Does it still stand? Has it been useful? Has it been playing out? Sort of where are we in regards to that? I know you've talked about that many times.
Yeah, look, everyone likes to say, oh, where's the bull market multiplier? And people can't seem to understand net in the market, right? Everything depends on net. So if you have 10,000 Bitcoin being bought and 11,000 Bitcoin being sold, you have a net 1,000 sell order in the market, not a 1,000 long order in the market, in which case the price will be driven down at a multiple. And of course, the bull market multiplier works in a very, very acute time period, right? Bank of America, in their research, they say very, very openly, and I've been saying this for a year now, that this multiple was at the very, very peak of the market, right? It's at the very, very peak of the market. I would say the bear market multiplier was about 55, and now it's been slowing down a little bit, right? Because there's more selling going on in the market, and as that selling ends, the multiplier will continue to range upwards. That's how this works. This is not a fixed multiplier. It doesn't stay fixed forever. It is changing second by second. But yes, the multiplier is working, and I predict at the peak of this next market, it will actually be higher than 118.
Interesting. Really interesting. So that's when we get the blow off top. Do you reckon this cycle is going to be similar to the other one, to the financial markets? They're driven by emotion, humans, people like pattern recognition. Does it go out, say, sort of for the next 12, 13 months, September next year sometime, unless something happens? Or is it going to continue, keep going? If we hit hyper Bitcoinization, what happens through this cycle?
I think it's going to be a lot.
Guess.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more tempered. I think that the buyers that are buying Bitcoin now are very, very different to the buyers that we've had in every other cycle. These people do not want to sell, right? You saw that with the BlackRock ETF. Everyone that's been going on about, oh, will these ETF buyers sell? Will they sell? Will they sell? BlackRock hasn't sold a single Bitcoin in this time period, right? Not a single Bitcoin in this entire period. So these buyers are different. They're trained to hold assets for the entirety of their life and beyond. They're not, traders. They're not speculators. These people are animals. These people want to hoard Bitcoin. They don't want to buy it. They don't want to own it. They want to hoard Bitcoin. And that's what, Bitcoiners have to get their head around, because, If you're a moron that's trying to trade your Bitcoin right now and you get called out on a margin position, it's not going out in the market to another moron like you. It's going out to the ETFs. It's going out to the big buyers. It's going out to the people that will never, ever sell.
Yeah, I think the same. Switching gears, totally. What are your thoughts on the power law?
Fuck me, mate. You really want to talk
about I want to go there.
All right, let's go there. So, as far as the power law is concerned, I'm just trying to figure out like on what level of 0 to 10 angry should I get on this. So, the power law is basically this guy who drinks too many fucking espressos decided to figure out this idea of a power law, which basically has, stayed 99% accurate or whatever it is to the price movement of Bitcoin. And he's fudged the numbers to make sure that it stays that accurate for the past. Now, let's say, just for argument's sake, that it is 100% correct for the past of Bitcoin. What the fuck does that matter for the future of Bitcoin? And this is one of the things I keep saying to all of the people that are sucking on the teeth of power law. And that is, are you, just like Nassim Taleb, right? Just like Joe Kernan told Nassim Taleb, are you going to sell your position based on the power law? If you're not, shut the fuck up, because it's completely irrelevant. And the worst thing that I can imagine is people that are normal people that are listening to this, all the Twitter spaces, all the YouTube videos, or Bitcoin works on a power law, Bitcoin works on a power law, bullshit like that. They listen to this and they're actually going to end up selling their Bitcoin right before the hockey stick takes off, thinking that this fucking line is so important that it's going to come and mean revert to the line. This is complete and utter horseshit for anyone who understands the longevity of Bitcoin and anyone who's trading because of the power law. In fact, any of those people, they all shut the fuck up the moment I get on those Twitter spaces and turn around and say, are you trading it? Are you going to liquidate 50% of your position based on that power law and it going up too high? And they all start stuttering. And if you're not going to do it, what's the point of us talking about it? Because it's just mental masturbation. And the worst part about it is, like I said, you're going to cause people that are sitting there to look at that power law, think it's overextended. They got to worship the line and bend over and pray to the line. And then they're going to sell their position. And then their children are going to regret it. And their grandchildren are going to regret it because the hockey stick's going to take off. The power law, in my opinion, whether it's right or wrong, I'm not a math nerd like Espresso Man, but it is completely and utterly irrelevant to the longevity of a hodler's position. And that's what that's what infuriates me, because these people out here always talk about their models and this, that, and the other. And I find every model entertaining to look at. But would I sit there and go, this is it? No one from any previous cycle is doing that. Anyone that you see that's talking about the power law in this religious way is a new Bitcoiner, because we all understand that models come, models go. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. And that's not what Bitcoin is about. Bitcoin is about holding and never, ever letting go. You know who understands that? BlackRock understands that. You know who understands that? Fidelity understands that. Now, they'll all start talking about these models because it's a good way to sell their clients that are used to looking at charts on the product. But do you think they're talking about power law after they've done that first transaction? They're talking about the scarcity of the asset. They're talking about the hardness of the asset. They're talking about the finality of the asset. That's what's important. Power law is completely and utterly irrelevant. And I want to see one of those people, just one, sell 50% of their position based on the power law and see what happens. And Sean, here's the crazy part. I actually took a second and actually asked the people, that the group of power law devotees that are, taking everyone on a power law jihad across the Bitcoin consciousness. I asked them, when does the power law get invalidated? You know what they fucking told me? They told me, I said, okay, I gave them an example. I said, okay, so you think it's going to go to 200,000, right? Firstly, that's no longer exponential growth. So you don't believe in the exponential nature of Bitcoin's adoption and on money, right? Cool. First position where I think they're morons, right? First thing. Secondly, Let's say you think it's going to go to 200,000 and then we're going to all have to bow down to the line. And it's going to come back down and touch the line. Let's say it goes to 1 million and it doesn't touch the line for 10 years. It just shoots to 1 million and it takes 10 years for that line to catch up by the time it touches it. What does that invalidate the power law? And the answer I got back was no, that doesn't invalidate the power law. It's just retarded to me, right? It's so stupid because it's completely and utterly useless. They have no metrics on what invalidates the model. Most importantly, again, I'll calm down now, but the most important thing is I do not want anyone listening to this drivel and BS fueled by someone who's jealous of Plan B and bringing out stock to flow to sit here, tell you that this is a model that firstly doesn't believe in the exponential nature of Bitcoin, and then tell you to trade something that if you do it, your children are going to regret it, your grandchildren are going to regret it if you get it wrong. Most people can't trade a normal chart, and you want them to trade a line that they don't understand. It's completely and utterly ridiculous to me. So those are my little opinions on power law. I hope that's clear.
Loud and clear. So that means we should be looking at the stock to flow then on that thesis.
Not necessarily. I think you should look at everything, right? I think you should look at everything. Certainly, I don't think that for most people that are, I distinguish between people who don't have one Bitcoin and people that have one Bitcoin, right? I think if you don't have one Bitcoin yet, your only objective should be to get to that one Bitcoin. I've been shouting this since last year. Get to that one Bitcoin. Anyone else after that, look, speculation is the right of the rich, right? As far as I'm concerned, speculation is the right of the rich. You got to earn the right to speculate. If you want to, once you've got your one Bitcoin secured, speculate on anything after that, it's totally up to you. It's your money. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. I just don't think people should, right? Yeah. So would I use something like stock to flow to give me a potential insight on the market, or to look at it and go, okay, that looks interesting? Sure. I'll do the same thing with power law. But I'm not sitting there going, I'm going to religiously, this is how it works, and I'm going to sell my Bitcoin because it's now overextended over power law, and I got to fucking bend over now and pay my respects to the line.
Yeah. All models will be broken. Why you have been very consistent, British, with telling people to get to one Bitcoin as soon as possible. Why do you think it is so important that people get to one Bitcoin?
Look, man, this is the hardest, safest asset that humanity has ever created. You will never, ever get another chance to buy this asset ever again. Your grandchildren, outside of the miraculous, right, where they create a $10 billion company, you're never going to get a chance to buy the amount of Bitcoin that you can buy now. Maybe it's one Bitcoin, maybe it's 2 Bitcoin, maybe it's 10 Bitcoin, maybe it's 50 Bitcoin. I don't know. But you're never going to get a chance to buy this again, because unlike real estate, where if London real estate market was saturated, you can just go to the, I don't know, Kansas City real estate market or whatever the hell. You can't do that with Bitcoin. It's not going to happen. It is the same asset everywhere in the world. It's the same asset in New York, the same asset in London, the same in Singapore, the same in Dubai, the same in Frankfurt. It is the same everywhere in the world. And you have 9 billion people chasing one asset that has absolute finality of scarcity. And now you got these wirehouses and these advisors coming on board that are sales commission driven, incentivized to sell Bitcoin into portfolios. And just to put it into perspective, right? If someone, say they sell $1 million worth of Bitcoin this year to their clients, right? And they put it in the ETF. And let's say they earn $10,000 commission on that, for example, right? In 4 years, that Bitcoin is going to be worth $4 million. Now their commission for the next 4 years is $40,000. They've never seen a growth like that in their commission structure ever. It's going to get to a point where Bitcoin is the only asset that they'll want to sell, because it is the only compound growth fee asset that they've got, right? So this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's a once in a species opportunity, as I used to say in 2021 on Clubhouse. And you got to take advantage of it. If you're not taking advantage of it, you will regret it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the the biggest mission everyone should be on, and go as hard as you can for 4 years. You know, eat ramen noodles if need be to be able to get there. We are seeing, I'll bring it up on here, 2 secs. So 21 Shares CEO says they're in talks with a bunch of sovereign wealth funds. We'll start seeing central banks and sovereigns buy Bitcoin. Do you think banks are going to adopt Bitcoin added onto their balance sheet, or are they just going to stick with gold, which has worked for 5,000 years? Obviously, aside from El Salvador.
I think we are about 2 cycles away from seeing a central bank of any major currency, like a G7 nation, putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I will be remarkably surprised, as I was with the Donald Trump transition, right? Like he went from a hate Bitcoin to a Bitcoin. I will be pleasantly surprised, and I'll be glad to be wrong. But I think rationally, we're about 2 cycles away.
Yeah. Is that just because of the market cap and the current volatility with being at like a $1 trillion market cap? Maybe we need to get to $1 million or something in for the volatility not to be as big?
Yeah, I think it's all of that. I think it's everything. I think it's just too early.
Yeah.
But I'll be happy to be wrong.
And like obviously Wall Street's captured, not captured, but they've got a lot of Bitcoin on their balance sheet through the ETFs. Does that sort of change the dynamics of Bitcoin as being a peer-to-peer electronic currency?
No, we're going through a transition phase right now. It needs to become a store of value first. You need to understand holding the asset. You know, the reason why so many people know about real estate is because so many people hold real estate, and they speak to people about holding that real estate. So then people start learning about real estate because everyone's holding real estate. That's what Bitcoin's going through right now. And, you know, we've got a lot of exciting things to get through first before we start talking about, you know, how do we start buying fucking newspapers with this? That's the stupidest argument on earth. I don't think anyone should be worried about buying your coffee with Bitcoin. It is the single hardest money on earth, and you're worried about buying coffee with Bitcoin. Pull your heads out of your asses and get to 1 Bitcoin now.
I like it. I'm just going to bring up this comment. I thought this is a really good question for yourself, Mr. Robbers. Shout out. What's your thoughts on the FASB rules taking effect in 2025? Many institutions waiting on Q4 to add to their balance sheets.
Yeah, you know, yes, I think there's probably, probably some of that happening. However, I think the institutional selling of Bitcoin through advisors is much bigger news than that, because I think the corporate treasury balance sheet in the US is something like $7 trillion. And the capital that BlackRock influences is something like, you know, if you account all of the top 500 asset managers in the world that basically answer to BlackRock, you're looking at something like $150 trillion. So I think it's much more important what's going on than the FASB rules.
Yeah. And do you have any idea where you think the price is going to go, like over the next 10 years, or what the market cap's going to be, how that adoption, like short term, it's pretty impossible to have any idea what the price will be. But if the trend continues, or it accelerates, or it decelerates, how do you see like worldwide, like the quote unquote hyper Bitcoinization happen? Maybe not in the sense where it's legal tender, central banks have it, but how's it sort of play out? Where's Bitcoin grow to? Like, you're so convinced you need to get to 1 Bitcoin. It's the world's hardest, scarcest asset. You're never going to be able to get here ever again. That obviously implies it's going to be a lot higher. There's going to be few coins on exchanges. So what do you see sort of playing out over the next, say, 10?
Yeah, I think that the next interesting thing is the biggest announcement for me out of Bitcoin 2024 was not President Trump's speech. It was Cantor Fitzgerald's speech, which Howard Lutnick announced that they're going to create a Bitcoin lending program through Cantor Fitzgerald. And, you know, there'll be people that come out. I got DMs from Bitcoin companies and they say, we've been doing this. Yeah, but you're not Cantor Fitzgerald. I'm sorry to say it, right? You're not Cantor Fitzgerald. You're not BlackRock. You're not Fidelity. You're not one of the 24 only firms that has direct printing access to the Federal Reserve. You're just not. Don't care. Don't care who you are. You're not one of these firms. Therefore, I'm not going to risk lending Bitcoin with you. It's just simple as that. Cantor Fitzgerald doing it is a monumental piece of news. So they announced that they're going to launch a $2 billion fund to lend against Bitcoin products or to lend against Bitcoin so that you don't have to give up your self-custody. And as soon as they fill up that $2 billion of books, they're going to go at a clip of $2 billion at a time, right, to continue increasing that book. Unbelievable news. That starts turning Bitcoin into real estate. And so that's what I think happens. I think it's very, very conceivable to see Bitcoin at a $5 million per coin, which is a $100 trillion market cap, which is a third of the real estate market cap by the early 2030s.
How interesting. For the average person, do you think it's a good idea to go into a product like that and lend against their Bitcoin, or should they just hold and not do anything with it, just let it be a pet rock?
Well, let me ask you something. Do you think it's good for the average person to get a mortgage when they buy a property?
Yes.
Yeah, so do I, right? It's not right now because the volatility is too high, but yeah, yes, it's a great idea for the average person to do that at some time. And now is not that time. You need to let it develop. You need to let the products develop. And soon enough, if you hold for 2 cycles, you'll be able to borrow 15 to 25% LTV against your Bitcoin position without any headaches, any issues whatsoever. Maybe even 50% if you wait until the 200-week moving average, right? So yes, absolutely, it's good for the average person to do that at the right time. Now is not the right time.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? We'll just a couple of rapid fires, but what are your thoughts on MicroStrategy? Michael Saylor's just been a madman accumulating Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, the stocks perform very well because of that. More companies going to follow, and what do you just think about his playbook?
I think it's unbelievable, right? I think he's done an amazing job. I don't think more companies will follow the exact strategy of MicroStrategy. In America, I think MetaPlanet doing what they're doing in Japan is quite interesting. I think all these other companies, all these other countries are quite interesting, and there's certainly hope in all of those for companies to run the MicroStrategy playbook. But I don't think it happens in the US. I think it's a one and done in terms of the size and the celebrity fare around it, right? Other companies may decide to put a small sliver of what they hold on treasury in Bitcoin, and that would be great too. But I don't think it's going to be to the size of MicroStrategy. Michael Saylor is an extremely unique individual, and it really takes someone extremely unique to do what he did, and I think it's absolutely remarkable.
You brought MetaPlanet up just then. Why have they not had the performance that MicroStrategy has, even though they've been following a similar strategy to a lesser extent?
Well, they've only just started, right? It's been like 4 or 5 months, so we need to let them play out and discuss that after this cycle's up. But I think they're going to do phenomenally well. Yeah,
cool. And where do you see, what else are you excited about with Bitcoin? There's so much happening. You're saying Morgan Stanley is probably the biggest thing this year, more so than Trump. But what else are you focusing on? What's getting you excited? Where's your head at? What do you look forward, or what do you hope to see in the space?
Absolutely nothing. I am not excited about a single thing, and I'll tell you why. When they filed for an ETF, when BlackRock filed for an ETF, I told everyone, this is it. This is the single most exciting news for Bitcoin for the next 10 years. Why? Because of the butterfly effect of a BlackRock ETF. They are going to support the industries. They are going to support the miners. They are going to fund. They're going to create opportunity funds for everything across the space. Everything in Bitcoin just got better because BlackRock decided to launch that ETF. So what am I excited about? I'm excited about seeing what that unfolds. But am I excited now about anything? No, because now this is finally turning into an investment. With an investment, you don't get excited. You don't run around with your head, like a headless chicken, basically, going, oh, this is exciting, that's exciting, this is exciting, that's exciting. I don't care. I told everyone, expect all the politicians to start turning around, and they did. Within a year, what I wasn't expecting is within a year, you got a Bitcoin House, a Bitcoin Senate, and a Bitcoin fucking president of the United States of America, the biggest, baddest capital markets in the world. I was not expecting that. However, that is what's happening right now. So am I excited? No. I'm expecting. Everything that's happening now is an expectation from me, as I've laid out in every video on my YouTube channel over the last year. Before anyone was talking about it, before everyone was excited about it, I was telling everyone, this is the game plan. The lobbies are going to come in play. The lending's going to come in play. Everything is coming, and it's now coming. So I'm not excited about a single thing. I'm relaxing, I'm chilling, and I'm waiting for it all to come to me now.
It's just that buy, stack, and chill. On that note, I have linked British Hodl's X and YouTube channels below in the description over on YouTube. If you are watching on X, come over and hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. That sounds like you're pretty excited, British Hodl, or you have been, and that's passed. It's a pretty big deal.
My excitement, my friend, has turned into expectation now. That's it. That's the only difference. My excitement has turned into expectation. I expect every single thing that I laid out to happen. And if you've been watching my YouTube channel, you've seen every single thing happen.
Yeah. It's that slowly then suddenly. I thought we would have gotten here maybe like in another 10 years, 2030 or something, but it's just accelerated so quickly. And I guess when I look at things like the power law or even stock to flow, I feel like all those models are invalidated because they can't price in like the human side of things, the rationality, or people see the number go up, technology, or they get excited about a store of value being a hard asset. And someone like Larry Fink, you can't put Larry Fink onto a model. And when something like that happens, the butterfly effect or the flow-on effect just becomes massive very quickly. So I think, I've always, you're Uncle Bullish. I like that. I'm always bullish, whether it's red, whether it's green. But I think that the whole world's changed. Do you think like fix the money, fix the world with Wall Street, with everything like that, whether Elizabeth Warren keeps up her rhetoric, Kamala Harris gets in, is Bitcoin still that opportunity to fix the world, or it's just going to allow the people that adopt Bitcoin to have a better life and the fiat system's still going to crash and burn and take a whole lot of people down?
I think it's still going to do that, right? But the good thing about it is there's now a life raft, right? Bitcoin is that life raft. There is at least a life raft, which we never had before, right? What was the previous life raft? Gold, that you can basically dictate how much supply is going to come out the ground by determining how much money you put towards gold mining and investing in gold mining. NASDAQ unicorns, like, okay, cool. So let's just create some tax incentives around investing in private equity and drive up the chances of a unicorn coming out of it. Like all of the assets that we've had, all of the life rafts that you had have been controllable on the supply side. Bitcoin is the first asset humanity has ever seen that is scalable and not controllable on the supply side, and that's what makes it truly magical.
Hey, British, I've just got someone at the door. Can I give you the floor for about 1 minute, quickly?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Well, he didn't say what we're going to talk about here. So, I guess what are we going to talk about here? Well, here's the thing. I want everyone to subscribe to Sean's channel right now. Sean's channel is doing amazingly well. I'm very, very proud of Sean for doing everything he's doing. So subscribe to the channel. I think it's extremely important that you do that. Subscribe to all your favorite Bitcoiners, because that is what sends a spank across the YouTube algorithm to let them know to send Bitcoin content to more people that need to hear it. So subscribe to Sean's channel right now. You just should be doing that. If you're watching this video, subscribe to Sean's channel right now. And ultimately, what you need to realize is that this is a once in a species opportunity. If you're not at 1 Bitcoin yet, you need to get to 1 Bitcoin. I guess Sean's on his way back. So let's see. I'm going to do some Q&A here, but I guess he's back. You back?
Yeah. I'm back, and I do, if anyone has got any questions, drop them, whether it's on X in the live chat or YouTube in the live chat. I do know the X live chat's not so great, so we are live on YouTube as well. Drop any questions. But a question that I'd like to know, and we'll probably differ a little bit on opinion here, should people like 100% hold Bitcoin in self-custody, or hold a little bit of both with the ETF? Like I know the ETF surprise added number go up adoption, but I don't think that's real Bitcoin. in the sense that I want to be able to have the Bitcoin as resistance money, but how do you think about it?
Yeah, I think we definitely differ on opinion there. I think you should have a spread across both the products. It's just very, very simple.
Why?
There's going to be advantages to the ETF as soon as this year, as soon as options come out. You know, if you know what you're doing, you'll be able to generate an income on your Bitcoin. Bitcoin becomes an income generating product as soon as options are released on it through the ETF. So, you know, yes, do I think that I also think if you want to borrow against your Bitcoin, it's gonna be cheaper to do so through the ETF. I just think that the ETF is going to have so many advantages that you should have some of both.
Yep. Like in Australia, there's the Monochrome ETF, and like, for example, I've got Bitcoin in self-custody. I can put it into the Monochrome ETF into a bearer trust, and then I could lend against that. And then when the time's right, I can pull that back out into self-custody as well. There's no tax implication for that. So is it not better than just to hold it in self-custody the whole time until somebody is ready to do that if they wanted to do that?
Maybe, but then it depends on the interest rate that you pay, right? Like at the end of the day, if the Bitcoin that you've got in self-custody requires a 10% interest rate, and my Bitcoin, because it's in the ETF, requires a 3% interest rate, just for example, I'm now 3 times ahead of you on the cost of capital. So I'm going to wipe the floor with you over time.
Yeah, interesting. Really quickly, for anyone that's struggling, the sponsor of the show, The Bitcoin Way, 25 years cybersecurity experience. They can help you run a node, run an air-gapped wallet, and hold it in self-custody. I guess this is where British Hodl and I differ a little bit. I sort of do understand British of holding a little bit of the ETF if people want to play that game, but we'll come back to that in 2 secs. The most interesting thing, though, with this is they can help you get a second passport in a country where it may be a little bit safer. There's a lot of geopolitical unrest at the moment. I know recently, like you're traveling, you went to London, Monaco as well, I believe, or Madrid. You were there. But it seems like there is a lot of like chaos going on in the world. You living maybe in Dubai, or I'm not sure where you are at the moment, but how important do you think it is to be able to have options to be able to go? Like, we've now got borderless money. You can keep 12 words in your head. You can get wherever you want to go. You can't do that with real estate. But should people therefore like put those things in place to be able to have those options to be able to be wherever they need to be in the world, or should they just do what they can in their country to try put things right?
It's 2 sides of it. I think all of those things matter once you have enough money. But if you don't have enough money, your goal should be to get enough money. Once you have enough money, then yes, diversifying your access is extremely important.
Yeah.
Extremely important.
I don't know if you want to dive into it, and it's fair enough, but what are your thoughts with like the unrest that's happening, in certain parts of the world? We don't need to be specific, or you can be if you're willing to go down those.
You want to talk about the UK? We can talk about the UK. It's an absolute disaster. The United Kingdom has had a 14-year reign from a quote-unquote conservative party that has done absolutely nothing to help the country. And I'm a lifelong Conservative Party voter, and I did not vote Conservative in this last election that we just had. I think that it pains me, it hurts me to think that my country has been directed down this path. And I think we absolutely need some level of reform in the United Kingdom to get this back on track. It's absolutely awful, and it hurts to see a prime minister, my prime minister, even though I didn't vote for him, stand up on TV and blame one side and not vilify the other side. It's horrible to see. So I'm praying for the United Kingdom. We've suffered so much. Like, the United Kingdom is going through a brain drain, a capital drain, a tourism drain. Like, it is struggling a lot right now, and it's not good, right? We've got lack of safety in the streets. We've now got people being inflamed on both sides of the debate, and I don't blame the side of the debate I don't blame either sides of the debate, right? Once you've had 14 years of weakening job growth, weakening wage growth, and you've been shouting about something for a while and it just keeps happening. You know, Sean, let me tell you something, right? So the UK has a population of 68 million people. 3 to 4 million of them have come in the last 3 to 5 years. 14% of them are there for work reasons. That's it.
Yeah.
It's awful. What do you think? You don't think that adding 4% of the population, you know, in a short time period like that is going to cause stress on law enforcement, on medical, on every service that the UK has? It is it's a travesty, you know, and it makes me think that there's something more sinister in play rather than just absolute incompetence, which is the only other option, right? It's either there's something sinister or it's absolute incompetence. And when you have absolute incompetence for 14 years, you are going to experience what you've experienced. And now trying to arrest people for what they're saying on Facebook, trying to do this, that, and the other. Yeah, it's the law of the country, but I think that they're not addressing the main issue that's there. And that is all of the bad decisions that we've made around immigration, around capital markets, around everything in the UK over the last 14 years. Did you know it's been 8 years since we voted for Brexit? And to this day, if I had not diversified my assets and my residences outside of the United Kingdom, I would not be able to buy a US SEC registered listed ETF. I cannot go and click buy on SPY or QQQ if I'm a British citizen right now. Did you know that?
No, it's been brought up before, but it didn't really sink in. That's absolutely bizarre. Just going back, and I also wish there's incompetence on the parties and the worldwide leaders, but it does feel maybe a little bit more sinister. In Australia, we've got the same thing, the massive amount of immigration. We're going through one of the biggest housing crises this country has ever seen. The borders are basically wide open, a little bit tongue in cheek there. It's a little bit more nuanced, but when there's so little houses, we're going through inflation, homelessness crisis, and they're just flooding the country with more numbers. There's just not enough housing to go around, not enough jobs to go around. It's strange that it's happening in a lot of countries in the West all at the same time.
It's not strange because it's not complete incompetence. We know that, you know that, I know that. We just don't want to say it.
Yeah, I wish.
It's not completely. It's not about complete incompetence. It's just not. There is an agenda in place. I urge everyone to go to Google and type in United Nations replacement migration and go read that report and then form your opinion on what's going on.
United Nations replacement migration. Awesome. Yep. Definitely check that out. I'll be reading that after this. Sorry, I just closed the comment. Now, Musk has been a really interesting person. We've got a couple more minutes left. Musk could be announcing Bitcoin strategy for his companies on Monday. What they're referring to is Musk and Donald Trump will be talking, I dare say, on a live space there on X. Musk very famously adopted Bitcoin, said he wasn't interested in Bitcoin until it got over 50% renewable energy. We're now at roughly 56%. In conversations with Cathie Wood, Preston Pysh, she's like, I don't think about it. I'm not interested. If you keep talking about that Bitcoin, I'm going to leave the conversation. So do you think on Monday he's going to get with his mate Trump and be like, all right, let's go hardcore with Bitcoin now. We've got all the money transmitter license in place. Like now's the time. Or that's like way off the bat and they're not even going to bring it up. It's not going to be an issue.
Do you think that BlackRock is an investor in any of Elon Musk's companies or a financier?
I don't know, but I'd say probably, if he's got the opportunity, he can. Yeah.
Probably, right? Well, then it's just a matter of time. Don't care what he does on Monday. Just a matter of time.
Interesting.
Elon Musk is not in control. President Trump is not in control. Larry Fink and BlackRock are in control. And until every Bitcoiner admits that, you won't understand how the game is being played. Simple as that.
Yep. One thing talking about the game being played, when you're talking about loaning against Bitcoin through the ETF, that's not something that just everyone should go out and do. Like you've said it, British Hodl said, like you can go out and do this after holding for 10 years, whatever. You need to be able to learn those skills. So how can people learn those skills to be able to approach it if they were to do it instead of just out of degeneracy and then getting a loan? Where can people learn the financial acumen to be able to pull that off successfully if nothing went wrong?
That's a very tough question. I don't know. I've learned it through my experience in life. You know, I can't really answer that question. Certainly subscribe to your channel, subscribe to my channel as these products become available. And when I start using them, I'll be sharing my experiences with them. So yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know where they can go to learn these exact skills. I can't answer that question.
Yeah. In the meantime, what are those 3 rules of Bitcoin?
Listen, Sean, everyone knows that there are ultimately, despite all of the conversation, only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, you shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.
It's always a pleasure. We'll have to make this sooner rather than later. We'll do it again. If you haven't already, hit up British Hodl both on X and YouTube. The links are in the YouTube description there. And if you're not following me, hit subscribe on both X and YouTube at G'day Bitcoin. Thanks very much, British. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, brother. See you soon.